Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I am Becky Nova. I am the Client Relations Manager for Michael Tarallo. And tonight, I just wanted to sit down with him and interview him on a little bit of questions on how he became the realtor that he is tonight. So, Michael, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Becky. It's always great seeing you.
You too. So tell me a little bit about where you are tonight. Where are you? We are clearly still in the middle of COVID at this time. So where are you quarantined?
I'm quarantined at home, like everybody
Hmm.
else is. I'm at my house in Pound Ridge
Hmm. And who do you
with my
live there with?
wife. I'm here with my wife and my two kids. My son, Michael, is 19,
Hmm.
and he's home from Villanova because they also sent all the students home for classes
Oh
remotely.
no. Oh, so you had to pick him up out of his dorm room?
Yeah, he's been back, I guess, I think he came back the beginning of March.
Okay. So there's a lot of parents probably that are going through the same thing. Now all of a sudden they have their kids home from college that they
Absolutely,
were not expecting.
and I have my daughter Angela. She's 17. She's a junior in high school at Fox Lane, and
Okay.
she's also taking classes online. Very different world.
Especially for her then too, kind of looking at college in the next year or so. That's really kind of changing quite a bit for her, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're actually doing most of the tours online now. So
Oh.
I guess it's going to be the new normal, having a screen in front of us and doing everything via remote virtual viewings.
Yes. Well, I know you've kind of been in that same boat right now, trying to figure out the best ways to use technology as being a realtor. So I wanted to ask a question about just what are you doing currently? Who are you working with? What types of people are you seeing really now that are using your services?
So it's interesting you asked that question. It's not a different set of people. It's
Hmm.
just a different way about going about business. Um,
Yeah,
it, the market, there's still a demand for buying and selling homes. I'm
of
working with both
course.
buyers and sellers right now. So people still need to buy their homes. But the way we're going about it is differently. Everything's being conducted virtually. I
Hmm.
conducted my first virtual open house this past weekend from one of my listings,
Oh,
and
great.
it was very different, but we had a
Hmm.
really good audience. People were they were very interested. They were very engaged as we walked and toured the house by myself, but answering questions. Uh, Different way of doing business, but you got to adapt to what's in front of you.
And you're right. People still need to move. Sometimes they're transferring jobs. They were planning on moving before this happened. There's still a necessity for people to be able to buy and sell their homes. Now, what areas do you cover?
So I do cover a pretty wide area. I have a lot of clients that come to me from referrals,
Hmm.
and they're all over the place. So I'll handle anything from the Bronx to Dutchess County, so Westchester, Putnam, Dutchess, and
Okay.
I'm also licensed in Connecticut, so I'll
Oh,
handle
in
Fairfield,
Connecticut too.
Connecticut as well. Where I live is right on the border. I'm right on the border of Fairfield County, Connecticut, and I live in Westchester County. So I'm
Now, why
kind of
the
right in the middle.
Bronx? That sounds so
Ah,
out of the area for you. Why would you go all the way down to the Bronx in the city? Isn't that like a completely different beast?
'cause the Bronx is home.
It's
I'm
home.
born and raised in the Bronx. So for me, going back to the Bronx is going back home.
Oh, so that's actually then a place that not only you know really well, but you feel really comfortable in too, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And it's
Okay.
funny, you'll always find people who are from the Bronx, you end up meeting each other in all different places and all different areas.
So you're not playing like that name game, like who went to high school with each other, who dated somebody else, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It is very scary. I was at an open house probably about 9, 10 months ago, and I was just speaking with somebody who was there. The house was up in Yorktown Heights. We
Hmm.
started talking, and it ended up that she was the sister of a friend that I had in high school.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't seen her since we were teenagers, but it's just a small world that way. I mean, we were a million miles away from where we grew up, yet we
Yeah.
were able to work together, and I helped them to buy their first home.
Oh, and their first home. Oh, wow. That must have
Absolutely.
been so fulfilling for you to be able to help somebody that you'd really crossed paths with so many years ago, not only be able to buy a home, but their first home.
Absolutely. I love first-time home buyers are big for me.
Why so?
Um, when my wife and I bought our first home, it was a really big moment for both of us.
Hmm.
We had both grown up in apartments in I grew up in an apartment in the Bronx. She grew up in an apartment in Fort Lee, New Jersey. So
Hmm.
for us, when we bought our house, it was bigger than anything we had ever expected, and it was just such a big, monumentous occasion for us.
Okay.
Um, so I'll never forget the day we closed, and we
Hmm.
brought the kids to the house, and they started running around, picking out rooms. And for us, as first-time buyers at the time, it really struck a chord with me. And
Yeah.
it was one of the reasons I got into real estate.
Do you find there to be then almost a different set of challenges emotionally for that first term home buyer? I mean, once again, how you're saying you being a city boy, now once again, there's so much more space, there's so many more things to think about that you might not be familiar with. I know when my husband and I first bought a house, he didn't think about cutting grass or you needing a mailbox. Like those aren't things you needed from living in a city. Were those things that you enjoy being able to walk people through? I mean, there's also much more involved in
Absolutely. Now, you actually, not only being my client relations manager, but you were a first-time home
that. Yeah,
buyer in my
sorry.
hands.
Shh, he gave away the secret. Michael
Uh,
actually helped my husband and I buy our first home. So, shh. But yes, he had to walk my husband through needing a mailbox on a house. That was a very intricate day.
it
But
was definitely a fun conversation.
yes.
But what I do like about it is it's not, you have to have a certain patience to work with a first-time home buyer.
Hmm.
You are, as a realtor, you're very familiar with the process. It's what you do every day. But from a first-time homebuyer's perspective, they've never done this before. So they're
Yeah.
going to need somebody who's comfortable educating them, who's comfortable taking them through each step of the process, but not taking them through it all at once.
Yeah.
I remember you were sitting there with your notepad and wanted to know everything from A to Z on the first night. And I had to tell you, trust me, let's go
Yeah.
through each part of the process as we get to it because it's going to be overwhelming. And a
Yes.
lot of first-time home buyers that I've worked with have said to me, the way I break down the process with them is so comforting and it makes it so non-overwhelming. I always use this phrase, and you probably heard this a million times from me. Real estate is about 10% business and 90% psychology. You really
Yeah.
have to work with somebody's, understand what they're thinking from their perspective so
Hmm.
that they can put their minds at ease and be comfortable making the largest single purchase of their lives.
No, great. And that was one of the things that my husband and I found so important about working with you. We had, as I think I told you, we interviewed so many different realtors looking for somebody, and no one really kind of cared about what we were looking for, who we were. They just kind of put us in this box of like, okay, another home buyer. And we really didn't have somebody that listened to what we were looking for, what we wanted, and be able to walk us through that. What was really helpful for me that you did was actually make sure I knew what parts were where I should focus my attention on decision making and what parts are just kind of part of the process that weren't as weighed as heavily in that. And that made kind of my note taking. I was able to prioritize what parts I needed to really focus on and talk through and get advice on versus what were things that, once again, you need a mailbox, right? We need a mailbox. There's no debate about that. That wasn't important to me. And you kind of pointed out, like, okay, that's something that, we really shouldn't worry about that. But picking the right real estate attorney, picking the right home inspector, those are things that are really going to be important moving through that system. And that was something you really highlighted for me, which was incredibly helpful.
I'll take it a step backwards. One of the things you touched on earlier is, why do I handle such a wide area?
Hmm.
Because normally a realtor won't handle too many areas. You bought your first home and then your second home, and
Hmm.
it is not at all in the area you originally thought you were going to buy.
No, not at all. Not at all. We met because if you're viewing in, we were actually, my husband and I were looking for a place in the Bronx. That's where we were currently living. That was the area that we knew. And we are currently living in Yonkers and honestly are happier than we could have ever imagined as kind of budding home investors, we actually were able to find another property in the same area that just made sense for us. So that was something that Michael was able to use his intuition, listening to what my husband was looking for, what I was looking for, and was able to provide us options in those areas that just made sense for us. But Michael, you work with more than just first-time home buyers, and also more than just real estate
Absolutely.
investors. So
Absolutely.
I know one of the things that I know that is really a specialty of yours is being able to look at a deal, analyze it appropriately, and walk people through that. Is there a recent instance where you had to do that?
So yeah, I can tell you a small story. I had a client of mine
Mm-hmm.
who was he is a Vietnam veteran,
Okay.
and they were in their early 70s.
So a couple.
It was a couple,
Okay.
and they actually they were living in Bedford Hills,
Mm-hmm.
and they were in a position where they thought they were going to lose their home.
Okay.
And I was introduced to them by a mortgage broker that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
And when he had spoken with them, he had said to them, wait a second, you may not have to lose your house. Why don't you call this guy? They gave them my phone number.
They probably called immediately. They must have been so scared that they were going to lose their house and
They
their
did, and
home.
I actually, when I got the call, I was actually away on vacation, but I answered the call, and I had a long
Mm-hmm.
conversation with them. And I said to them, listen, as soon as I get back, let me come to your house. Let me sit down. Let's have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
To make a long story short, they thought they were going to lose their home to foreclosure. In the end,
Wow.
I worked with their attorney
Mm-hmm.
and the mortgage companies that held the mortgage on their current house. We were able to put together a deal with them to buy them enough time to not only sell their house, but then to
Mm-hmm.
utilize his, what he did not know, he had a veteran's benefit to purchase a new
Wow.
home. So they were not only did they not lose their current home, they were able to sell it, pay their mortgage off in full, and buy a new home where they're currently living in, and they couldn't be happier. But it was
Wow.
challenging. We had to think outside the box. We had to work with the attorney. We had to work with the company that held the mortgage on the property they thought they were going to
Yeah.
lose. There was a lot of different parts to it that were way more complicated than just a regular real estate deal. But when we
Mm-hmm.
put it all together at the end of the day, it was wonderful. They're living in a great house. I
Yeah.
spoke to them 2 days ago. I checked in on them to see how they were doing
Oh,
with the
nice.
whole shelter in place thing, and they've been
Yeah.
there now for about 6, 7 months. They're totally happy.
That's great. That's amazing, really, that you were able to think of a thing that they really hadn't that no one else had mentioned to them that might be the possibility for them. And then really work with the other players involved, their attorney, the mortgage broker, once again, and pull everybody together to really make the situation happen for this family. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Having the right people that you can work with makes
Yeah.
all the difference. And when any of my clients ask me to refer them home inspectors and attorneys and
Mm-hmm.
mortgage brokers, um, I'll refer people that I know have similar ways of looking at things the way I do. They care
Yes.
about their clients. They want to make sure they're taken care of. It is not about making the deal. It is about making sure the relationship is right. And you went through that
Yeah.
whole process with me. Everybody you used in the team were all people that I work with all the time, and it was. I think you can attest it worked well, guiding you through that new and scary process.
Absolutely. It was great to be able to find you, my realtor that we can trust. But then clearly you were the person that I can rely on and count on to put me in touch with those other players. And that worked out fantastic, not only for the first buy, but then for the second buy. So thank you for walking us through that. I really appreciate you kind of letting us into your home tonight to learn a little bit more about you. So thank you for that. Also, if you are watching, feel free to tune into and subscribe to Michael Tarallo Realtor on YouTube, and also look at Michael Tarallo Realtor on our Instagram. So you will get information there about our next upcoming video. We'll be sharing more tips of the trade and learning more about Michael as we go through this process. We're also looking for any questions that you have that you would like Michael to be able to answer. So feel free to write those in the comments either on YouTube or on Instagram. Michael, do you have anything you want to say to kind of wrap us up?
Becky, this is my first YouTube video, and I will say, you know what? It's really the new medium. It's great to have a conversation, and I think that's what I like most about it. That we can actually sit down and have a conversation and talk about some of the things that are important, and maybe help that person who's looking to make this move and it seems daunting and overwhelming. Make it a lot simpler and a lot easier.
I think that's the best part about it is it's sharing information out there with people that can really use it. So thank you for trusting
Thanks,
me
Becky. This was
with YouTube.
terrific.
All right. Have a good night, Michael. I'll talk to you
Good
soon.
night, everybody.
All right. Bye.